Hey guys, today we're going to talk about the book Sprint. We're going to learn why you would want to do it, what it's about, and then we're going to do some exercises inside of it.
All right, welcome. So today I'm going to talk about design sprints. It came out of this book called Sprint, written by Jake Knapp. So the guy, a couple other guys, the guys that wrote this book all worked at Google Ventures when they defined this process and refined it, or however you want to look at that. So basically what they would do is, with their companies that they were investing in, they would go in, do this design sprint, which would be 1 week worth of work to get to a point where they could test out the important pieces faster and more cheaply than actually developing an actual product and stuff like that. They've got a bunch of great examples in there around, some of like their best performing examples of this process. And then it goes into the definition of what the sprint is, how to accomplish it, gives you details even around the supplies that you might need. You're going to need a bunch of sticky notes, a bunch of Sharpies, a bunch of dots, some lovely clean whiteboard space, and so the big idea here is you want to take your ideas and get from the idea phase to learning much faster than building and launching, because their concept is it's not about or it's not as important to build the right thing as much as it is to build something and get it out there and get feedback from your customers and find out what they're actually wanting out of the system or what they would actually use or stuff like that. So it's a 5-day process, which there are some people that, so this book's about 3 years old. They've kind of taken that and refined it even a little further down. I think that we can get it into maybe 4 days if you wanted to, but for the purposes of this, let's talk about the original 5 days worth. So they make it a very condensed day, and the idea is you want to have everybody invested and focused on this one thing for this whole week as best as you can, without having distractions from other work obligations or meetings or whatnot. But the hope is when you get done with it, you're going to have well worth that time by answering questions or coming up with a prototype. So on day one, on Monday, you're going to go through and define out what the problem is, figure out where the customer sits in your problem, maybe what other actors might be involved with that, and narrow in on a specific piece of your problem that you're looking to solve for. The next day, you're going to bring in some resources of existing things about, or other companies that do similar things, and then come up with some rough sketches around how your particular team might solve that problem. On Wednesday, then you're going to do rounds of voting and scoring and narrow in on what you want as kind of like a storyboard for your Friday testing purposes and which pieces you're going to tackle. And then Thursday, you're going to build a prototype. Friday, you're going to take that prototype and put it in the hands of your customers and get their feedback. So the prototype would be, if you want it to be as close to real as possible. So if you were doing like a phone app, you would want to try to get something on the phone, but obviously you're not going to expect somebody to build a website from scratch in 1 day. But there are tools, and they point you to some where you can do some rapid prototyping pieces. My experience, they were able to use a piece of software, but I don't recall what it is off the top of my head. Basically, they used their Post-its, sketched out phone screens, took a picture of that sketch, and then made interactions on that captured image to make it act like a app would act like, which was pretty cool. Some other examples they gave in the book, one of the companies they were working with was creating a robot for hotels to deliver things that you wanted the front desk to send you. So you forget your toothbrush, this robot's going to deliver that toothbrush for you. Obviously, you're not going to prototype that whole thing, but by the time they got involved, the robot part already existed. They were working on more of like the personality of the robot and how it would interact, and would customers even want that coming to their door. So they just slapped an iPad on it and kind of did a fake interaction, and then they had somebody on the other end with a voice to communicate with the person in the hotel so that they could prove out what that customer might actually want out of that. And then the testing is very important. So this is really what you're trying to get to in this 5 days, in this faster time frame, is get to the point where you're getting customer feedback as soon as possible, and then take that feedback and use that to define where you go next. So that's the general overview of what a design sprint is.
Hey everybody, that was Sprint. If you're interested, check out the book. Otherwise, we'll see you on the other side.